and welcome to Inspired Earth. I've got something special for us all to listen to today. I think that we are all going to be excited to listen to this one. So we're going to be talking about a experience I had in 2020 or 2015, and next year's 2025. So it's going to be the 10th year anniversary coming up. And yeah, it's surprising that it's been that long, but I still remember a lot of what happened that night. And before Ian Punnett had passed, he talked about the importance of recording experiences like this for posterity's sake. And I thought that was interesting, if not for your family, if for everybody. And yeah, it would be interesting to see future generations come back and listen to all these people talking about their experiences and compare experiences through time and see how they evolve. But so I've talked about this experience a couple times on different types of mediums and stuff, and I've never had the experience of giving a long form explanation of what happened that night. Like, I've gotten a pretty good amount of time before, but I feel like it needed more time and explanation. So it was kind of a hot night, and me and some friends decided to go and basically camp outside overnight. And it wasn't an area that we didn't know. We had spent a whole lot of time in there just having fun, messing around. I pretty much knew where like every tree was. I knew everything, like where everything was in this little tiny area. But it was a nice area, and it was a river bank. And yeah, I don't want to give the exact location away. And there's some parts of this story that I will have to change for privacy, for like the people that were there, to change their names and some details of the story. But primarily, I'm going to be just saying exactly what happened. And yeah, hopefully one day I'll be able to talk more about the details that I'm not able to talk about. But if that day ever comes, it will be obvious why I was not able to share 100% of everything. But this is going to be like 90% of what happened that night. So it's a hot night, and we're walking in, and there's no clouds at all. And as we're trekking into this little campsite near the river, there's a single strike of dry lightning. And I mentioned to my friends, like, hey, I've read online that dry lightning can be in the area and associated with UFOs and paranormal type of stuff. And honestly, I just thought it was heat lightning or something like that. I mean, I don't know much about like random lightning strikes, so I just associated it with some sort of weather type of thing. I thought it was weird though, and it was notable. And so we just keep on going in, and we didn't really think much of it, like, that was cool. Like, it's cool being out in nature. You get to see that sort of stuff. And that was pretty much the end of it. It's a short walk, so it doesn't take much longer for us to get into the area. And to try to paint a little picture of the area that we camp at is, there's a big hill, and we camp at the top of the hill, and there's a clearing that goes down the hill. So if you can imagine a big clearing with a flat part at the bottom, and then you walk up the hill, and it kind of plateaus, and there's a flat part at the top of the hill that's a circle with a big oak tree in the center of the circle. So it's kind of impossible to get lost. You know, we're in a giant clearing, and there's a couple bushes in the middle of the clearing, like a bush patch of large bushes. I don't know the type of bush, otherwise I would tell you, but it was like a mixture of plants that had been kept like this brush patch had been kept that way for some reason. Everything else had been mowed and cleared, and it was nice. It was like a park, basically, kind of like a park. And so we set up camp at the top of this hill where the oak tree is, and we can overlook everything in front of us. And then to our left, on the side of the hill, is basically a cliff. Very, not super steep, but a very, very steep. Well, not super far down. It was not a far drop. It was like maybe 30 feet max. But it was quite steep. And there was areas that you could maybe navigate up the side of it, like walking sideways like a mountain goat. But yeah, it was primarily pretty much just like very steep. And one thing that I thought was peculiar was that we had kind of come in at a different angle than we normally had. Normally we would just walk straight in through a short route, but for some reason that night I was like, I have the feeling that we need to come in from a different angle, and it was like a longer route to get in there. And I'm not really sure why I had decided that, other than just like a gut feeling. And a lot of the people I was with, just anytime I was like, hey, I have a feeling, they're just going to go with it. So basically we went in from this other long angle, and we ran into these wild boar, and they had like piglets and stuff, so we were cautious and letting them leave. We didn't like hogs with pigs are pretty dangerous, and we didn't have any weapons, so we didn't really want to tangle with the hogs. So we were trying to steer really clear of the hogs and get to our campsite, where the hogs would basically be down by the river, and we were going to be like 50 yards, but probably further than that, maybe like 100 yards away. And the hogs, again, we have the defensive type of terrain where we're at the top of the hill, and there's like cliffs behind us, where nothing can really sneak up on us, hardly at all. And yeah, then the big open field in front of us. So just trying to paint the picture. And then there's like a ring of trees all around us, and that's what basically, there's like this clearing, and then all around the edge is a line of trees and brush, and of various thickness. So yeah, we get up to the top and we set everything up, and like we see the hogs, and it's no big deal. They leave, and we just take note of it, of like, yeah, there's hogs in the area. We pretty much already knew that. Wasn't optimal, but it wasn't a huge deal, because it wasn't like a giant pig or family. It was like a pretty small group. Like the mom and dad were both small, and so were the piglets, and they were leaving. So, and we were making lots of noise and stuff. We didn't want to walk up onto anything. So we get the camp set up, and we set up a fire, and I brought like a bunch of candles and lantern type things and lights. And it's pretty clear, so we don't have to worry about fire. Like I said, it's like a clearing. There's no brush or anything where the fire could spread, and we made sure to be careful with that. But so as we're setting up and everything, we basically had just finished, and we're just relaxing and starting to listen to some music, and really hadn't had much time to be there when we hear all of these handgun shots, what sounded like handgun shots, ring out very close to the north of us, and we're like northeast-ish, and we're on the edge of a property line. So we're like, okay, well, like they're shooting in their property line, and we're on the edge of this property line. So and we didn't hear any whistling or like yelling or banging or anything like that. So you know, just chalk one up another one to like just randomness. You know, like people will come out and shoot handguns into the river just willy nilly, or you know they could have been shooting at those hogs, or it might not have even been gunshots. It could have been like stuff hitting logs and stuff. We know gunshots pretty well though. Like it sounded like a higher caliber. It didn't sound like a 9mm. It sounded like a 45. We pretty much all agreed on that. There was 4 of us there, and we all agreed that was gunshots, and it was close. But we weren't being shot at. It was just gunshots nearby, which could be anything. That could just literally be people having fun and stuff. But you know, we're out there, so obviously we're concerned about that, but it doesn't continue. It was just somebody like dumped a mag, which was weird. Maybe they were trying to scare something off, or shoot at the hogs, or scare us off. I'm not really sure. But we cut the music, and you know, we were like sitting there like, oh shit, like, is this person trying to get us out of here? Are we somewhere that we're not supposed to be? Those sorts of questions. And you know, we're like, no, we're in this property line. Like there's a big giant dirt pile behind us. That's the property line. So we know we're in like the park. We haven't left the park. We know this area really well. We know where we're at. So we're just like, okay, well, it stopped. We're here. Everything seems okay. So I mean, let's just continue on camping. Like, very strange. But so we basically start talking, and we go exploring for a little tiny bit, like not exploring into the woods, but just like looking around our little clearing, and like looking at this giant tree. There was an even bigger tree at the bottom of the hill that we went and checked out for a little bit, and then kind of came back towards the campsite, and we were talking, and I'm talking to them about downloads that I've had from ET in the past. And I don't know how people will, like the listeners will feel about that sort of thing. Some people say that's cringy. I didn't know that people will say that that's cringy or whatever, but that's just the best way that I would describe what happened to me. And this was like in the past. I've had several instances where I've just had spontaneous cognition of information, really in-depth types of things that are just given to me, and I would call that a download, because it's not like I was processing those thoughts. It was just like instant snap of the fingers. I understand this whole concept top to bottom. That was and sometimes it's really emotional, and it's not always good news, but and that was in the past that had happened to me, like whenever I was younger. I mean, sometimes I still have similar types of stuff, but I've never had anything on the level of some specific ones in the past. And I guess I'll just say that we were talking about consciousness and layering of thoughts and how that works, and basically just describing how the human consciousness works and in relation to the brain and the layering of our senses and stuff like that. And as I'm describing these things to the campsite, I suddenly start to feel like the feeling of being eavesdropped. Something is listening in. And that feeling kept growing and growing and growing until basically I felt like this thing was hanging on my every word. Like, as I'm saying the word, I can feel it just like on the edge of its seat. It just holding on for every single thing that I said. And it was really disturbing. And I started telling, well, I didn't tell my group that like at first, but it started getting so overpowering that I was like, guys, I feel like there's something out there listening to us. And then they were like, what are you talking about? And so I tell them that I feel like we're being eavesdropped on, and they're kind of like, I don't know, like, I don't know about that. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. Let's just keep on having fun. It's just like a weird feeling. And so we go down to the bottom of the hill to uh, look at this tree, and like the moon is super full, and it was just really pretty down at the bottom, near where the water was and where this tree was. So we go down there, and I see my friend go into the bushes, which is abnormal, and he just walked straight into the bushes. And I wondered what he was doing, and like that wasn't like him. And I went back up to the campsite to go and grab something, maybe a phone or a light or something, because I was worried about him going in there. And I was like, we need light. And as I get to the top of the campsite, and this is at the bottom of the hill, and I walk up to the top of the hill, which is probably, this hill is a good 50 yards, maybe longer, long. And I meet him up there. I meet the guy that I just watched walk into the woods at the bottom, at the top. And he's like confused and kind of like standoffish. And I was like, well, where, like, didn't I just see you down there? And he's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how I just got up here. I just kind of got lost. And I was like, what do you mean you got lost? Like, how did you get lost? Like, this is open clearing. And he just was like, I don't know, like, and didn't want to talk about it or whatever. So I thought that was weird. And I was like, I just saw you walk into the woods down there. And he was like, no, like, I was walking around up here. Like, I got lost at the top of the hill. And this is not a guy that could, like, run super fast. And if he did, he would be out of breath. And he wasn't. He wasn't out of breath. But he did look concerned and, like, freaked out. And this is not a person that gets concerned or freaked out very easily over nothing. So I thought that was weird. And I'm like, okay, well, let's go down to the bottom of the hill and get with everybody else. So when we get down there, they're looking for us, and we tell them, like, hey, I found James. He was the one that walked off, and I found him up top, and like, we're back now. And they say, well, have you seen Luke? Because whenever James walked into the brush, Luke followed him, and then Luke came back out and was asking for me. He was asking for me, Brendan. Like, they're telling me this. And that freaked me out. And so I'm feeling like basically nobody should split up at this point, and we should all stick together and all turn on the lights. And it's not typical for people just to walk off into the woods. Like, these are not people that are just... So what's up with everybody just, like, mysteriously walking off into the woods? And so we go back to the top of the campsite, and James is up there, and he said that he's been up there the whole time. And again, this is not somebody that could run and be... that pretty much everybody there was pretty out of shape. And yeah, there was nobody that could have, like, been running around without getting out of breath, especially in this clearing and stuff. So we get up there, and James was like, I was looking for all of you guys. And down there at the bottom, everybody else is like, well, didn't we just see you at the bottom of the hill, and you were asking about Brendan, and you had your phone in front of your face, blocking your face, and you were, like, texting or, like, on your phone. You wouldn't get off your phone, and you had it in front of your face. He was like, no, I didn't. That wasn't me. And we asked him what color his phone was, and he said that it was, like, white, and the one that person had was black, or vice versa. I can't remember anymore, but it wasn't the same color as the phone that he had. Was the one that the thing was holding at the bottom of the hill was the opposite color of what he had. But none of us knew that. None of us knew what color his phone was. So it was almost like it didn't matter what color it showed us. So yeah, that was really creepy. And I got the feeling that I couldn't stay still. Like I should not stay still. I was getting the feeling that I just needed to constantly keep on moving and run around and like turn on every single light. And during that time was the period that James was having this conversation at the bottom of the hill. And yeah, so that was pretty weird. So basically we're all pretty freaked out at this point, and we're all talking about how nobody can leave. We all have to stay within sight of one another. And now the third person, the only person that hasn't gone missing, like other than me, the other two have gone missing and come back, but had experiences where they didn't know where they were, and conversations with things that look like them, that they said that they were not having those conversations, and they looked freaked out. They were not like joking around. This was getting real. And I feel like they were in denial about it, honestly, that they just didn't want to even like process what had happened, that they just disappeared and got lost randomly and got back. They were just like, well, I'm here now. So, and these are also people that would not really be down to playing a joke like this. And to what end, you know, like we were all freaked out. Maybe one of the people there would have played a joke like that, but there was no way that they could do that with all four of us. And we saw stuff that night that like there's no way that they could have done. So yeah, like there's no way that this was just like us pranking each other somehow. That's not possible. But so the third person that has not gone missing other than me, we'll call him Max. He starts to walk away from the campsite. Just gets up and starts walking away. And we're all like, hey, like you can't just walk away. Like, what are you doing? You can't just walk away. And as we're following him, he stops. He uses his left shoulder to block his face. And he's looking at us and like glancing back, using his left shoulder to block. And letting us get closer. We're taking steps. We're following him. And then he keeps on going again. And we're like, hey, I know you can hear me. I can feel you listening to me. I can literally feel you listening to my sentence right now. Stop. And I'm like actually calling him like expletives and stuff, like in a friendly way, in an endearing way. I'm just like, hey, you know, you whatever, just stop. And it stops again. Not like on command, but like after a couple steps. And we're getting closer. And this time, instead of just using the shoulder, it like pulls out its whole arm and blocks its face. Like tucks his face into his arm to where it's covering most of his face, and all that there is like the eyes over the arm and shoulder. And he's like almost like Dracula. Like if you know how Dracula holds up the cape to like block his face, that's literally what he was doing. But there's no cape, but he was using his arm to block his face like that. And I thought that was the weirdest thing ever. Well, we get closer and we're kind of getting more and more freaked out following this person. Like this person is not behaving like Max should be. And he's kind of a heavier guy. And this, if out of anybody that would be pranking us, it would be Max. But like Luke and James would have never have come up with this sort of thing. They never would have been able. I don't even think Luke would have been able to do it if he wanted to, like come up with or even act out the way that they were acting. But anyways, as we get closer to Max, we're getting closer and closer, and he stops. And this is the third time he stops. and we all are getting this is probably within like 6 feet of each other, or probably around 6 feet. And Max does this clean tuck and roll into this middle group of brushwork that I was talking about in the middle of the field. This middle, there's a bunch of brush in the middle that I don't know why it was there. It's just, it was like mowed around and everything, but it was like a giant brush pile. And we start to hear this inside joke, and it tells us an inside joke. But okay, just like a sidebar here, that this inside joke was supposed to be from a TV show, and we were all convinced that we had heard it from this TV show, and he was drawing us nearer by making these sounds and inside joke from the TV show. The only issue is, since I've gone back and watched that TV show, I cannot find that inside joke or those sounds anywhere. But yet we remembered them from that show, and I remembered him doing this call to us to try to get us closer. Super weird. I don't know if that's like a screen memory or what that is, or how we could all remember it being from a TV show, but it not being in the TV show. Very strange. And this TV show also has made mention of gray aliens and stuff like that in the past. So it's just really strange. But I get up to the bush, and it's going, "Hey, come here," in like a low, raspy voice. And I don't go into the bush. I'm like curious and freaked out, and becoming more and more and more freaked out by the second. And I get next to the bush, and remember, this is like a full moon night, so I can see the sunlight coming through the bush, and inside of the bush I see this long pair of arms in an ape-like stance that was gray arms, and I can remember that they were glistening in the moonlight, like they were wet or moist, and that it kind of looked like a mixture of like a lizard skin or like salamander skin with like a shark skin. It made me think of shark skin, but a little bit smoother, and like, I don't know. But I saw that and basically started freaking out, and I yelled to my friends, "It led us here," and I start trying to run away, and my friends are like, "No, don't run away. You can't just run into the middle of the woods in the middle of the night. We all have to stick together." And so yeah, we basically, at that point, we're like, fuck, like, we got to go back up to the camp.